All right, today we're going to talk about one of the most fundamental words in all of economics, and we're pretty much going to tear up the old textbook definition, because it turns out the real key to understanding our entire economy isn't about money or machines. It's all about having a plan.
So let's just start with a super simple question. When I say the word capital, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? Go on, think about it for a sec.
For most of us, it's probably money, right? Piles of cash, or maybe you picture factories, big machines, some number on a stock ticker, all that physical stuff. And yeah, economists have some pretty weird definitions too. One called it congealed weighting. I mean, what even is that? But all of these ideas, they feel kind of cold and, impersonal, because they're all missing the single most important ingredient.
See, the real secret to understanding what capital is, it's not the object itself, it's the human mind that gives that object a purpose. It's not about the thing, it's about the plan for the thing, and that changes everything. Okay, so let's really dive in and build this new way of thinking from the ground up. We're going to replace those old, dusty textbook definitions with something that's way more dynamic and honestly, a lot more useful for understanding the world.
Here's our new working definition, and it comes from the work of economist Israel Kirzner. A capital good is just a way station. Think of it like that. It's an intermediate stop on a journey. A journey to create something that people, actually want to use or consume. It's just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle.
And this idea just completely reframes the whole issue. The great economist Ludwig von Mises absolutely nailed it with this quote. He said capital is a product of reasoning, and its place is in the human mind. So capital isn't just out there in the world waiting to be found. No, it starts in here, inside our heads. It's a method, a strategy, a way of acting to get to a goal.
Think about it this way. For literally thousands of years, huge pools of oil just sat there under the ground. It had the exact same chemical properties back then that it does today. But was it capital? No way. It only became a valuable capital good when humans came up with a plan for it. A plan to power cars, a plan to heat homes, a plan to create plastics. The physical stuff didn't change. The plan did. And that transformed a useless thing into an incredibly valuable capital good.
So if capital is really just this huge collection of interconnected plans, how on earth are we supposed to visualize that? I mean, the old view, it really doesn't give us a very good picture at all.
Right. So the traditional view basically sees capital as just one big, shapeless blob of stuff. You just add it all up, you get a number, and you plug it into a formula. Kind of boring, right? But the plan view, that reveals something way more intricate, way more alive. It's a delicate, complex, interlocking structure of millions upon millions of individual plans, all fitting together, or sometimes, clashing with each other.
So what's the best way to picture this incredibly complex capital structure? Well, think of it like a massive coral reef. It's not a single lump at all. It's a living, growing ecosystem, built piece by piece, plan by plan, over generations and generations of human action.
And this reef, it has layers. At the very bottom, you've got the foundation. Land, natural resources, the stuff nature gives us. Then you start building up with the lower layers, things like processing raw materials. The middle gets really dense. That's the complex network of all the interlocking plants, the factories, the tools, the supply chains. And right there at the very top, waving in what we could call the currents of human desire, are the finished goods, the things we all actually want to buy.
But a reef is a living thing, right? It's dynamic. And so is an economy. Those currents of human desire, they're always shifting. So what happens to our carefully built structure when the plans that hold it all together suddenly become obsolete?
Let's use a classic example. Picture it. The year is 1900. If you owned a company that made horse-drawn carriages, you had a ton of valuable capital. All of your specialized tools, the assembly lines, the leatherworking equipment, all of it was part of a very profitable, very sound plan to provide people with transportation.
And then this happened. The automobile wasn't just a shiny new product. It was a completely new plan for how people were going to get around. The currents of human desire shifted, and believe me, they shifted fast and they shifted hard.
So what happened to all that super valuable carriage-making equipment? Well, the second it was no longer part of a viable plan that people wanted, it stopped being capital. It just became junk. Its value collapsed almost overnight to whatever it was worth as scrap metal. The physical objects didn't change one bit, but the plan did. And that, right there, made all the difference.
Now, this all leads to a really fascinating, almost paradoxical idea about how economies actually grow. It turns out that to get what we want faster, we often have to take a longer, more roundabout path. So, how in the world does that work?
Okay, imagine for a second you're a coin collector. The most direct plan is easy, right? Just check the change in your pocket. But pretty soon you're not going to find anything new. The returns dry up. So you adopt a more roundabout plan. You invest your time, you use gas, you get in your car, and you drive to a local coin show. Later, you might even create an even more complex plan to fly to a big national convention. Every step is longer, more complicated, but you do it because you expect a bigger payoff.
And that is the key right there. Economic progress pretty much always happens by making the production process longer, by adding more of those way stations we talked about. And why? Because we're smart. We figure out the easy, direct routes first. To achieve more, to get more, we have to build more intricate, more roundabout plans.
So, let's bring this all home. Why does it matter so much to think of capital as a plan? What does this new perspective actually help us understand about the real world? What's the big takeaway?
Well, this point of view, it kind of changes everything. It explains why we see idle factories. They're not idle capital. They've stopped being capital because their plan failed. It makes it clear that what's economically profitable is way more important than what's just technologically possible. It shows us that we, the consumers, are the real bosses because our desires shape the entire economic reef. And maybe most important of all, it reminds us that progress isn't some automatic thing that just happens. That beautiful, complex reef has to be built and maintained constantly through human foresight and really sound planning.
Ultimately, when you look at it this way, you start to see the world differently. Our economy isn't just a static list of assets on a balance sheet. It is a dynamic, living, breathing network of human intentions, dreams, and plans, all interacting in a structure of almost unimaginable complexity. The entire structure of our civilization, that massive, incredible coral reef, is built on the simple foundation of human plans. And that's empowering, because it brings all that power right back to you and me. So the final question is pretty simple. The world is built on plans. What new plan will you make?